Good day, friends. I'm doing the introduction to this series in English as quite a few of the interviewees do not understand any Afrikaans. And this way, hopefully, a broader audience could also benefit from the discussions we're going to have. Now, as a way to give context to this series, two scriptures have always stood out to me as both a source of encouragement and condemnation. The first is Hosea 4 verse 6, where God says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children." If the last decade has taught us anything, it is that we live in a cultural moment where God's people, their faith, their beliefs, their morality, their calling, are being destroyed. It's been deconstructed because of a lack of knowledge. Knowledge of God and knowledge of His will as it is given to us in Scripture. And the fallout has been disastrous. The second text is 1 Chronicles 12, verse 23, that gives context to verse 32. These are the numbers of the divisions of the armed troops who came to David in Hebron to turn the kingdom of Saul over to him, according to the word of the Lord. Of Issachar, men who had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, 200 chiefs and all the kinsmen under their command. So knowledge of God and His will, and the wisdom to discern the times we live in, both in terms of how God is moving and where culture is heading. My personal experience is that a lot of Christians have recently woken up as if from a restless sleep. They have been, in internet vernacular, been red-pilled. They can see culture moving with intentionality, and in some cases they can see it even moving with impunity. But they realize they are sorely lacking the wisdom to discern the times and the knowledge to say or do something about it. Now, this series is for these Christians, to help us gain the knowledge to better understand this cultural moment and what we ought to do in response. Another text that helped me to realize the intended audience for the series is Jude verse 22. "And have mercy on those who doubt. Save others by snatching them out of the fire. To others show mercy with fear, hating even the garment stained by their flesh." So not all who follow in the footsteps of culture do so with open eyes. It is my hope that those that have been misled by half-truths, devious ideologies, faulty logic, pithy mantras, that they may start to see the transient reality behind culture's public performances, and that they may turn to the ultimate reality, that which is God, and to God's truth, that which is the Scriptures. Now, how best to contextualize the historical moment we find ourselves in? Consider the following. In a cultural context that lends itself to the unbridled cultivation of instant gratification. I want what I want and I want it now, and everything around me is geared towards helping me get it. In such a cultural context, precious little second-order thinking is taking place. Now, what is second-order thinking? If first-order thinking is the ability that most people should possess to consider the immediate consequences of certain actions, decisions, or ideas. I'm hungry. If I eat this snack, I will no longer be hungry. If this is first-order thinking, then second-order thinking is the much rarer ability to consider the consequences of those consequences. I'm hungry. If I eat this snack, I will no longer be hungry, but I will exceed my calorie intake for the day, so I'll either need to compensate with a later meal or do extra exercise. Second-order thinking places actions, decisions, or ideas within a larger consequential framework, and so have a better vantage point from which to evaluate and regulate gratification longer term. In this regard, second-order thinking can also be viewed as practical wisdom, something that is, in the whole, more concerned with edification, growth, than gratification. The lack of second-order thinking in the cultural moment we find ourselves in is especially prevalent with regards to the deconstruction and supplanting of norms and ideas that have stood the test of time. Norms and ideas that have been viewed as markers for societal stability and human flourishing for thousands of years. For example, pair bonding for life, what we call marriage, sexual fidelity and identity, the nuclear family, complementarian gender roles, Judeo-Christian ethics, etc. We are told that the reason for this deconstruction and supplanting of norms and ideas is progress. We live in an age defined by the prefix post. We are post-enlightenment, post-colonial, post-modern, post-truth, post-God, and thus post anything pertaining to God. We must progress beyond the norms and ideas that shackle us to backwards and bygone eras. In fact, we must become unmoored from anything that would dare impose structure, solidity, or certainty. We must be fluid, and only then can we truly be free. That is the essence of this flavor of progress. At least according to the contemporary mainstream ideologies of social justice and critical theory, which underline this idea of progress. And what it essentially boils down to is progress for the sake of progress. To be shackled to the process of perpetual unshackling. And if that sounds like a contradiction, this whole enterprise is filled with a myriad of contradictions. It's basically a proverbial Ouroboros snake eating its own tail. It's never satisfied and it can never push far enough. So progressing for the sake of progressing because the immediate consequences are desirable in terms of staying in step with some arbitrary and ever-changing ideological standard which seems to be the order of the day. Not to mention the gratifying opportunities it produces to stand on some virtual or actual platform signaling to the world your virtue as you proclaim your allegiance to its arbitrary and ever-changing standard. It's an ideological endeavor that have greatly characterized the 20th century, and in this new century it has borne offspring with even less interest in or aptitude for thinking past first-order consequences. Deconstruct the family and marriage, deconstruct sexuality and gender, deconstruct language, art and history, deconstruct identity, deconstruct truth. Just keep on deconstructing with little to no heed of unintended or even the practicalities of intended consequences. And this is something to which the great G.K. Chesterton spoke in the form of a narrative heuristic. Now, a narrative heuristic is a story designed to show the causal relationship between events. He says, there exists in such a case a certain institution or law. Let us say, for the sake of simplicity, a fence or gate erected across a road. The more modern type of reformer goes gaily up to it and says, I don't see the use of this. Let us clear it away. To which the more intelligent type of reformer will do well to answer, if you don't see the use of it, I certainly won't let you clear it away. Go away and think. Then when you can come back and tell me that you do see the use of it, I may allow you to destroy it. So the fence for G.K. Chesterton being a metaphorical stand-in for norms, values, and ideas. And he went on to explain why this principle holds true, writing that fences don't grow out of the ground, nor do people build them in their sleep or during a fit of madness. He explained that fences are built by people who carefully planned them out and had some reason for thinking the fence would be a good thing for somebody. Until the reason for the fence, the real reason, could be established, we have no business taking the proverbial axe to it. The reason might not even be a good or a relevant one. There are a lot of bad ideas out there, even bad old ideas. We just need to be aware of what that reason is. Otherwise, we may end up with unintended consequences. Second and third order effects we don't want, spreading like ripples on a pond, causing damage for years. Elsewhere in his essay titled Heretics, Chesterton makes a similar point. Suppose that a great commotion arises in the street about something. Let us say a lamppost, which many influential persons desire to pull down. A grey-clad monk, who is the spirit of the Middle Ages, is approached upon the matter and begins to say, in the arid manner of the schoolman, let us first of all consider, my brethren, the value of light. If light be in itself good, at this point he is somewhat excusably knocked down. All the people make a rush for the lamppost. The lamppost is down in 10 minutes, and they go about congratulating each other on their unmedieval practicality. But as things go on, they do not work out so easily. Some people have pulled the lamppost down because they wanted the electric light. Some because they wanted old iron. Some because they wanted darkness, because their deeds were evil. Some thought it not enough of a lamppost, some too much. Some acted because they wanted to smash municipal machinery, some because they wanted to smash something. And there is a war in the night, no man knowing whom he strikes. So gradually and inevitably, today, tomorrow, or the next day, there comes back the conviction that the monk was right after all, and that all depends on what is the philosophy of light. Only what we might have discussed under the gas lamp, we now must discuss in the dark. Ideas have consequences. That is the title of this series. Fences are there for a reason. Before pulling them down, we must consider who put them there, for what reason, and what the long-term effects will be when they are removed. As we'll see in the series, most of these fences, most of the old ideas that are so gaily torn down these days, have been authored by God Himself. And in this series, we will try to contextualize the cultural historical moment we find ourselves in these terms, defining the fences and its intended replacements, if you will, in terms of the philosophical, theological, political, socio-economic, and ethical ideas underpinning and upheaving Western civilization, with special focus on its implications for adherence to historic Christianity. And the reason for this, as I stated in the beginning, is to endeavor to empower and edify Christians with discernment, second-order thinking, and practical wisdom in navigating the shifting tides of the societies we live in.